So there's the publication process of your data publication, which is similar to your paper publication or paper publication. We have several teams who take care of your data submission. So it's the team around the editor-in-chief. We have the technical team who takes care about technical tasks of your submission. And of course, we have the big group of our PANGAEA Data editors who in the last will work on your data and publish your or archive your data. Of course, you as the author will be involved in this process at any step and any time. So please be prepared to answer to our questions. And just remind, it's not a fire and forget. Here you can see the publication workflow of your data submission. You as the author will submit the data to PANGAEA. And what we are doing is in the first step with the team around the editor-in-chief, an initial review. This means that we have a short look on your data and we have to decide if your data can be published with PANGAEA or if we have to reject your data. Of course, you will get information about the status as soon as possible. The next step is that we are giving the data to one of our PANGAEA editor, who will also make a review, which is an editorial review. This review means that we are going more in detail. If something is missing, we will ask you as the author, what is about the missing things? Maybe if it's not fitting to PANGAEA, also at this step, we can reject or we have to reject your data submission. Your data are fitting to PANGAEA. So what we are doing is we are processing the data for the best format, which can be accepted in PANGAEA. What means that we have to create your tables to have the special PANGAEA format. We are importing the data to the PANGAEA database. And in the end, you will get a link to prove your data sets. Of course, it went not every time in the best way. So maybe we have to do some corrections on your data set. We ask you to tell us what's good, what's not good, what do you wish with your data. And the PANGAEA editor will follow as good as possible your suggestions. And in the end, you have the data publication with a full data citation and the DOI. Okay, so this initial review, the first step we are doing, I have a flow chart here. What happens? So the submission is coming to us. We are looking on it on the first step. And in the best case, it's absolutely the topic is suitable to PANGAEA and the data sets and metadata are absolutely complete. And what we are doing is we say, yes, we accept it. And it's just assigned to a big pool, which is called PANGAEA editorial. This is the best way. And in the end of this way, you will be assigned or your submission will be assigned to the editor. Very often we get incomplete submissions. This means that, for example, the file upload was missing or was not done. Maybe your files are too big, as I showed you yesterday, so we have to send you an upload link. Or, for example, abstracts are not sufficient, and we have to ask for some corrections of your metadata and data. It's up to you to complete the data submission. If it's completed and it's absolutely fitting after this step, we will give it an okay, and you will go to the PANGAEA editorial to the left side. If you don't react to our requests, it's an incomplete submission and we have to reject it. That's the baddest way submission can take. So if we see in the first step, it's not suitable for PANGAEA, it's, for example, model data, which we do not accept, we have to reject this data submission in this first step. Okay, so what are the reasons why we have to reject in this first step data submissions? I think you heard it yesterday and you will hear it again today. So we don't accept model data, gene sequences, or software, for example. So we also have to reject data or data submissions if we have environmental and earth data, but you don't want to give us the georeferenced positions. So there's a special case for experimental data, but we explained it yesterday, but please give us positions of your sampling. If you submit only PDF documents, we can't archive it. We are focusing on table structures. And for example, some table structures are coming with a lot of macros calling, coding, and so on. And if these tables are too complex and we don't know where to start with explaining what to do with this table, we have to reject the submissions. We have also some topics which can be stored in other repositories in a much better way than in PANGAEA. So, for example, there are some mineralogical or petrological data where we ask you to use another repository. For example, it's the same with seismic and earthquake data. So we can't present it in a really good way, so we have to ask you, maybe you should use another repository. It's the same for the museum's collections. There you have different ways to publish your data, and it must not be a publication in PANGAEA. So what happens if you have an incomplete information? So if we ask you to fulfill your metadata or data. So what we are checking first is if we have a good dataset title, if we have a full data abstract, if we have the event site information or sampling information we need for a data publication. Of course, we are checking also if the event information is correct. So it's the first check if we have latitude, longitude, and it's not somewhere, I say, on the moon or something like that, or if someone just changed latitude, longitude, and it's not really working with it. We are looking at the abstract. Do you have the information, what has been measured, when has it been measured, where, why, and how have you measured your data? And we check also the license. What we are doing with a data check, it's just a first view on it, is have you uploaded your file? Have the upload failed, for example? What can also happen? We ask what happened. The next is to check table structures, column headers. Do all column headers, all measurements have a unit or not? If not, we have to ask for the units because we can't give units to the measurements just by thinking it could be correct. Checking the next is macros and formulas. It's really hard if you have Excel tables and there are activated formulas and macros in it, because you don't know what links to what, so please delete it just before submitting. Color editing and graphics cannot be represented in PANGAEA, so please don't put it into the table, and we ask to remove it. So just to summarize up, please don't give a data set title like data for the paper title or just the paper title or something like table 1 data. Yes, we know it's data. It's better to give a short description, what has been measured and where has it been measured. You see here that we write sediment core, for example. That's because we are the data publisher for all environments. So it's really important to know if we have a sediment core or, for example, if we have an ice core. So don't just give the paper abstract. That's what we can't accept. Or just one sentence with this data gives Bentic forum counts for details see paper. No, your data submission is a standalone publication, and we want to give a data publication which is independent from your paper. So don't referentiate just to read the methods, to read the abstract in a paper. You see on the right-hand side what has been measured, where has it been measured, how has it been measured, and so on. For the license, yes, we offer the CC0 license, but maybe we will ask you why you choose it. It would be better to have CC BY. And sometimes you also get the request if you could get set a really complex license, and also this has to be discussed before we can accept the submission. Last but not least, we often have something like reference. the manuscript ID of the journal. Sorry about that, but we can't open it. We don't have the access to all these journals, so that's not working. It's the same for a placeholder DOI, which is not linked to your manuscript or paper. So please give a DOI which is working, or if you don't have a publication at the moment, but only the manuscript, please give us the authors, the manuscript title, and whenever possible, also the journal where you plan to publish. So for the data tables, you see on the left-hand side table, which is an Excel table, okay, but we have missing units. For example, we have parameter names, variables, which are not readable for everybody. So we can't import it because we have to ask you a lot of things. What has been measured? What's the unit? Please remove in the last column the text strings. Yes, I see that we have maybe something like an event, but this is a table where we need a lot of work to format it for PANGAEA. On the right-hand side, you see that I have here a screenshot of our templates, and you see the data table where we have all information we need, the full parameter names together with the units. You see that you have, for example, no text strings in columns with real values. And on the end of the table, you see that there are also all the sheets with the information, the campaign, event, and parameter information we need for a good data submission. So why do we also reject data? Sometimes it's happened that somebody asks for an upload link, and we are not really aware of what is coming and if this subject will fit to PANGAEA or not. And if there was the upload and we are checking the files, we see, okay, it's not thematically a good data submission for PANGAEA, and we have to reject it. It's the same sometimes for the metadata. We ask you to complete your metadata. We get a better abstract, and then we realize, so sorry, it's a modeling data set, and we have to reject it. If we don't get a feedback in an acceptable time and metadata stay still incomplete, we have to reject your data submission. It's the same for the data files and tables. If we ask you to improve your data files and it's not done, sorry, we have to reject it because we can't do this formatting work for you. And last but not least, if there's a fire and forget, so you submit your data and then you are going to holidays for the next half year, it's not feedback in an acceptable time, so we have to reject your data submission. We send several reminders, but again, keep in mind, we need your feedback, and please not half year after your submission. But you are welcome to resubmit your data after you have improved your data and metadata. So please open a new data submission and we will evaluate your data for the next time. Okay, the best case, your data submission is accepted in this first step. What is happening next? So as I told you before, your submission is accepted and assigned to the PANGAEA editorial. This is a waiting position for the next step. This means that your submission will be given to a subject-specific editor as soon as he or she is available. This can take time because we have a long waiting list for data submissions at the moment. But please be prepared to answer questions as soon as your data submission is given to the specific editor, because he will start to work on it as soon as he got this submission, and he will work together with you on your data submission. So I hope that you have seen that there's a lot of work done just before your data will be uploaded to PANGAEA. What we are doing with your data is the next step, and Dana will give you an introduction to it. Okay, thanks a lot.
But you can see my slide now.
Yes,
can you hear me?
can.
Yeah, okay. So I'll go on and continue to tell you what happens next. So this is typically the time when you have to wait the longest time before your submission gets assigned to the field-specific editor. And during this time, things can happen. You might realize that some changes in your submission are still needed in your metadata, or even you might realize that you need a new version of your data to be submitted. And that's really still possible at this time to inform us about this. So keep us in the loop, keep us informed, and comment to your submission ticket whenever you realize that some changes are needed before we actually start working on maybe outdated metadata and data. So for that, you can anytime write us an update in the submission ticket in a comment of it. If you need to do changes on your data and structured metadata, you can go to the ticket and look for Edit Metadata blue button, which you can see in this screenshot here. This is the communication environment. And pressing this will take you basically to your original submission submission ticket or submission form, where you will be able to review and update the metadata. At the end of the filling this form, you will also have an option to upload new files or leave us a message, or in any case, you should leave us a message to inform us what is happening and why. And if you have multiple files to update, then ask us for submission for upload link. So this is still the part of this process, editorial process, where your data are just submitted. They are nowhere to be seen online, and they don't have a reference. And everything changes after the next step. So the editor will be assigned to your submission. You will be automatically informed in the ticket about the state of the status, about the change of the status, and we start working on your data. What does that mean? So each of our editors has a certain toolbox that we use to edit data and metadata. We also have in-house software that helps us actually bring the data from the submission to PANGAEA database. We work most often, or most of our work concentrates on the metadata level, where we connect the data and metadata, and this serves to standardization and harmonization of the data that finally can be found in PANGAEA. When there are some minor issues with the data, so now I'm talking about tabular data mostly. So when there are some small issues, we can also do some editing on the data level, like if you omitted to do some standardizing of formats in geolocation, date time, or labels of events, something like this. If these changes are like clear to us what we need to do, and it's really fast to do, we can still do this, and we inform you about it. We standardize the parameters and units to those standardly used in PANGAEA. Maybe sometimes divide cells when you have latitude, longitude in one cell. It's easy for us to edit it. We can do this and inform you about what we've done. And then we send you a link. Now your data are online. They are so all the metadata are now findable in the PANGAEA portal, and they are open access. Your data are typically protected at this stage, and your data set in so-called review status. So here is just a kind of example. I didn't want to put their real in a review data set to show, but you will be now asked to proofread the data set that is online now. It has a preliminary citation already. And so you go through this like you go through proofread of a paper, for example, and check if everything is correct, if we interpreted all your information you provided to us correctly, and presented it in a way that is reasonable to you. So, so in the end, we'll ask for your feedback, and there will be a dialogue, definitely. You instruct us what we need to change. We have questions, you have answers, or the other way around. And at the end, when everyone is happy, there will be an approval needed from your side, because in the end, it's you who is responsible for this data publication and for the content. After that, we need a decision on what the publication status and moratorium will be. So we can publish the data right away, and these data at this stage can be fully citable. So that means that the DOI can be registered, and you have two options here. So in any case, this data set should be at this stage final, and no further changes or no further major changes are possible anymore. There are some exceptions, like for example, if you have a paper in review at the same time, and then after dataset publication, your paper gets published, we can of course update or connect your dataset with paper publication. That's still possible at any stage. And you can decide either to have the dataset open access at this stage, or during the peer review, for example, or during some time that you need to use your data only for yourself. There can be a moratorium. Typically, this shouldn't be longer than 2 years. And it's set at this, so the end date of the moratoriums is set at this time, and it will expire automatically. And after that, the dataset will be open access. Another option you have at this stage is to leave the dataset in review status. So this is typically used for the cases when you are not 100% sure if the dataset is final, because during the peer review in some kinds of data, it can show up that maybe some recalculations are needed and you need a new version. And if this is likely, we would recommend you to keep the dataset in review status at this stage, so that the changes are easier later, because at this stage the dataset can be basically changed in any way. It can even be deleted at this stage. So you just need to decide if the dataset should be open access at this stage, or it can also be access restricted. So open access, obviously, for example, for peer review, that is needs to be public, or it can be also restricted if you wish. So this it is still possible to provide access to these restricted data sets for third parties. So this is, for example, the case if you need an anonymous link for paper reviewers or dataset reviewers. So we can provide you with this token, and you, through maybe journal editor, can pass it on to anonymous reviewers, and they can already review your data, which are otherwise not accessible to wide public. Or you can maybe ask us for providing you this link to share data with third parties like your colleagues or some other researchers who contact you and would like to access to these data. So here at the bottom of this screen, you can see a kind of pop-up window which appears at the web page when someone who receives this link opens the link, and you will be informed that you were granted temporary access and it specifies how long this access is valid. All right, and then we were talking about final publication of your data, and that changes are usually not welcome at this stage anymore. But still, we are aware of cases that changes to data are needed nevertheless. So this can happen with any kind of publication, that there is an update, the version is outdated, needs correction. So what we can offer you in this direction is either when you have minor revisions needed, we can document changes in the data set with a metadata item, which is called dataset history. So we can make the changes in the data sets, typically minor changes, and it will be documented when and what changed. So here is an example what it would look like if you, for example, decided to change the license to less restricted. So this would be a typical example of a minor change. And if you need to do really large changes to a data set, the data set needs a new version or something like this, this is also possible. So basically we cannot delete a published data set from PANGAEA. What we can do is replace it by a new version. So what happens at this case is that basically the old version will be hidden. It will still exist, but will be hidden from the search at PANGAEA. Instead, the new version will be findable. But at the same time, if someone already knows this citation, this reference, for example, it is published in some paper, so clicking at that link will lead the user to the old dataset site, where it will where the user will be redirected to the new version of the dataset. So the old version is typically also protected against download unless you decide otherwise. Maybe both versions are still relevant, but only the newer version will be findable. Yeah, and then I would also like to basically overview what publication types we have. So either the dataset can be published standalone. So that means that you go somewhere, you do your measurements and publish your data, and the data publication can be cited as such, can be reused as such. You don't really need any paper to go with it. The data publication is a standalone item. A different case is independent supplement to a paper publication. So in that case, you have two entities that are published at the same time. You have your data set published with us and a paper that goes with this data set. And these two items are both independent. They get their own digital object identifier and reference, and they are cited in both directions. So from our data set, you can get to your paper publication, and in the paper publication, in the data availability statement, you have a reference of your data. So this we call independent supplement to a paper publication, but in both cases, the data publication with us is standalone. That means it is equipped with sufficient metadata needed for the data to be reused by anyone with or without any paper publication. And finally, I would like to inform you about the possibility we also have to publish collections. So oftentimes it's the case that within one data submission, you basically have multiple tables or multiple data sets, which is okay. And so these can be published as so-called collections. And I would like to introduce you to two types of collections. It can be publication series. So publication series is a type of data publications where the individual tables or individual data sets have a very similar structure. For example, it can be one type of measurements which took over different timescales. So monthly data sets, yearly data sets, whatever granularity we agree on. And this can also be an open-ended collection. So in the next time period, you will add a new publication, or it can be the same kind of data measured at different locations. So all these let's say homogeneous data can be published within a publication series, which then has own citation. It's a little bit like a book, so you can then cite either the book or the individual chapters in a book. Bundled publication, on the other hand, is a collection type that can be used for heterogeneous data. So you have all kinds of different tables or data sets that they don't have the same structure, but they are very much dependent on each other. It would not make sense to publish them individually. So in this case, we can bundle these into this type of publication.